0 degrees Celsius. For the untrained observer, this temperature signals the end of the biological cycle. But for the prepared cultivator, the onset of frost marks a critical operational window. 30 days remain before the soil structure locks up completely. Why introduce seeds to freezing earth? It seems illogical. But in reality, cold stratification is a necessary trigger for germination in 20 specific high-yield varieties. These are not delicate ornamentals. They are robust biological machines designed to thrive in low-light environments. On the surface, the field looks dormant, but underground, the process is violent and active. Roots act like biological drills, piercing the cooling clay to anchor themselves deep within the water table. If you miss this November planting window, the opportunity is lost. The consequence is not a delay of a few weeks. It is a full 365 days of stagnation. Reliance on external food supply chains during the winter months creates a significant financial drain. In a survival economy, growing your own calories is the only way to mitigate this cost. Practical agronomy proves that crops established in late autumn develop denser cell structures and yield significantly higher biomass than those attempted in the chaotic weather of spring. The protocol for this month involves 20 specific cultivars. In accelerated motion, the advantage becomes clear. While spring seedlings wilt, fall-planted crops expand rapidly. Pay close attention to the 8th entry in this inventory. Its maturation cycle is incredibly short. From germination to harvest takes less than 30 days. There is one nuance here regarding thermodynamics. A specific method of ground insulation can technically triple the caloric output of a plot. The mechanism is simple. The clock is ticking. The planting sequence must begin immediately. One single biological unit. That is the only investment required to trigger exponential growth. This is the hidden efficiency of winter agriculture. The first resource to secure is garlic. Why plant just before the deep freeze? It seems counterintuitive, but the cold is not the enemy. It is the catalyst. Garlic offers a return on investment that rivals industrial manufacturing. You plant one clove in November. By the following summer, that single piece of genetic material has multiplied. It transforms into a complete bulb containing 8 to 12 new cloves. The math is simple but aggressive. 1 pound of seed material costs roughly $5. At harvest, this biomass expands to 10 pounds. In the grocery aisle, that volume is worth $50 or more. This is a 10-fold increase in assets. The process begins now. The goal is root establishment. You press the individual cloves into the earth, spacing them 4 to 6 inches apart. The depth must be precise, 2 inches below the surface. Orientation is non-negotiable. The pointy end must face the sky to align with gravity and light. Underground, the mechanism activates immediately. White, fibrous roots pierce the cooling soil. They do not produce green shoots yet. Instead, they anchor the plant and mine for nutrients. This root system is the engine that will drive bulb formation 6 months later. The winter chill is biologically essential. Without this period of cold, known as vernalization, the bulb will fail to split into cloves. Choose a location with maximum solar exposure. The soil must drain rapidly. Standing water is fatal at these temperatures. Genetics determine survival. Hardneck varieties like Music or German Extra Hardy possess a rigid central stem. They are engineered for severe northern climates. Soft-neck types, such as California Early, have a pliable structure. They store longer and thrive in southern zones. If you execute only one operation this November, let it be this. The timing determines the yield. But there is another asset for the cold weather grower. Next up is kale. This is not just a vegetable. It is a metabolic powerhouse designed for low-temperature survival. One single plant functions as a continuous production line. The harvest strategy is mechanical. You strip the mature outer leaves for consumption. The central growth point remains intact. From this core, the plant pushes out fresh tissue. It acts like a biological printer, generating new calories week after week. Cold weather triggers a chemical change inside the cells. As temperatures drop, the plant converts stored starches into sugars. This is not for flavor, it is a survival tactic. The sugar acts as a natural antifreeze, preventing the cell walls from bursting. For the grower, the result is a sweeter, more tender leaf. The variety known as lacinato, or dinosaur kale, thrives in these conditions. Upon closer inspection, the leaves are dark blue-green. The surface is pebbled and reptilian. The texture is firm, but lacks the fibrous toughness of curly varieties. Transplant seedlings with 12 to 18 inches of spacing. They will continue to gain mass through the winter. The resilience is high. Kale withstands temperatures down to the low 20s without failure. If the forecast predicts a hard freeze, tactical intervention is simple. A fabric row cover creates a microclimate. The plant survives the shock and rebounds immediately. In zones 5 through 11, the production cycle is unbroken. While other crops rot, kale provides essential vitamins until the spring warmth triggers the flowering phase. The food supply is secured. $4 to $6 per pound. That is the current market price for a standard bag of greens, but in the soil, this crop costs almost nothing. The third essential resource for the cold season is spinach. This is not merely a salad ingredient, it is a biological machine designed for low temperatures. While other species go dormant, spinach accelerates its cellular activity in the cold. It thrives in the chill of November. The harvest strategy relies on surgical precision rather than brute force. You do not pull the whole plant. You wait until the outer leaves span 4 to 6 inches. Then you sever them. The central growing point remains untouched. It is a regenerative engine. As long as that core is intact, the plant will rebuild its biomass 3 or 4 times throughout the winter and early spring. There is a chemical nuance here. Spinach handles frost better than almost any other leafy green. On the surface, the leaf looks frozen, but inside, a complex reaction occurs. The cold stress triggers the plant to convert stored starches into sugars. This acts as a natural antifreeze, preventing the cell walls from bursting. The result is a sweeter, denser leaf. To secure a continuous supply line relying on a single planting is a strategic error. The industrial approach is succession planting. Every 2 weeks, a new batch goes into the ground, continuing through November and into early December. This creates a staggered maturity timeline. Instead of a glut of food that spoils, you get a steady stream of calories. Space the plants 4 inches apart. In wide beds, broadcast the seeds to create a dense green canopy. Genetics matter here. Varieties like Bloomsdale and Space are bred for endurance. They resist bolting and withstand the thermal shock of winter. The economics are undeniable. A 10-foot row of spinach yields 20 to 30 pounds of biomass over the season. In a crisis, this caloric density outweighs any currency. But green production does not stop there. The fourth strategic crop is lettuce. November is not the end for this species. It is the optimal window. Speed is the primary advantage here. While root vegetables take months to bulk up, baby greens activate rapidly. In accelerated motion, the leaves unfurl and cover the soil in just 30 days. Full heads follow shortly after. Why do commercial farms struggle with flavor in the summer? Heat triggers stress. High temperatures force the plant to bolt and produce bitter compounds. Cool weather suppresses this reaction. The plant focuses energy on leaf development rather than reproduction. To maximize yield, diversity is required. A monoculture is weak. Mixing butterhead types like buttercrunch with crisp romaine and loose leaf varieties creates a textured nutrient profile. Seeds are dropped with high density, spaced just 1 inch apart. As they emerge, the weaker shoots are cold. These thinnings are not waste. They are immediate microgreen sustenance. In zones 5 through 11, production continues through the winter. The plant is tough But it is not invincible. A simple cold frame acts as a greenhouse shield, trapping solar radiation against the frost. The harvest method mimics the spinach protocol. Snip the tissue 1 inch above the crown. The root system pushes up new growth immediately. Compare this to the retail environment. A plastic container of spring mix costs $5 and degrades within days. A single seed packet costs $2. It produces 50 times the volume. The supply chain is now in your control. 5 times the market value in fresh biomass. That is the return on investment for a single planting cycle. The 5th crop on the list is Swiss chard, and functionally, it operates less as a vegetable and more as a continuous biological generator. Upon closer inspection, the vibrant red and yellow stems are not merely aesthetic traits. They indicate distinct vascular structures capable of transporting nutrients efficiently, even in plunging temperatures. Why do the stems glow with such intensity? It is not for decoration. It is a sign of robust cellular health that allows the organism to survive where others perish. Chard possesses an extreme tolerance for cold. It withstands hard frosts that would liquefy the cellular walls of common lettuce. A single established root system acts as a production unit, delivering caloric output from November straight through to the following spring. The logistical advantage lies in the growth pattern. The harvest strategy relies on a specific biological quirk. You remove the mature outer leaves. The central crown, or the apical meristem, remains untouched. The plant perceives this as damage and accelerates regeneration to compensate. In accelerated motion, the process is visible. The outer ring is cut away, and within days, new foliage erupts from the center to fill the void. This creates a closed loop of supply. It eliminates the need for reseeding. Spacing is critical for this yield. Place the plants 8 to 12 inches apart. This allows the root ball to expand, supporting a massive vegetative structure by midwinter. Culinary application is efficient. The leaves substitute directly for spinach. The stems possess a density similar to asparagus, requiring separate thermal processing to break down the fibers. Varieties such as Bright Lights and 5-color silver beet are not just visually distinct. They are bred for this exact stamina. In zones 6 through 11, a November planting schedule allows the roots to anchor deep into the soil substrate before the ground freezes. But that was just the beginning of winter survival. Now consider the caloric density of the carrot. This root vegetable is optimized for November planting in many regions. The logistics here are different. You do not harvest to stimulate growth. You harvest to deplete a stockpile. The soil itself functions as a zero-energy refrigeration unit. On the surface, the rows appear stagnant, but underground, a complex chemical reaction is taking place. Carrots planted in November develop slowly. This deceleration is intentional. In warm weather, rapid growth leads to woody, fibrous tissue. In the cold, the plant effectively panics. To prevent its cells from freezing and bursting, the carrot converts stored starches into sugars. Sugar acts as a natural cryoprotectant, lowering the freezing point of the plant fluids. The result is not just survival, it is a root with a sugar content significantly higher than summer crops. Select the Napoli variety. Geneticists bred this specific strain for 2 traits: rapid maturity and high sugar concentration. The planting protocol is precise. Seeds must go 1/4 of an inch deep. The soil must be loose and free of rocks to prevent root deformation. Germination in cold weather is slow. The seed coat requires constant moisture to break. But once the taproot penetrates the subsoil, the plant becomes incredibly hardy. In zones 5 through 10, the harvest window remains open all winter. The technique involves heavy insulation. Apply a thick layer of straw mulch as the ambient temperature drops. This creates a thermal buffer. The ground beneath remains soft enough to pierce with a spade. To access the food supply, push aside the mulch layer. Extract the roots. cover the whole. The remaining crop stays in stasis, fresh and crisp. Calculated economically, this is a massive victory for the grower. Retail prices for organic roots often hit $3 to $4 per pound. The markup is due to transport and storage costs. In a home system, those costs are zero. A single 10-foot row yields 30 to 40 pounds of product. The math is undeniable. One packet of seeds converts into over $100 of essential food. Two separate harvests from a single biological unit. That is the efficiency calculation for the seventh crop. Beets. This plant does not just offer food at the end of its cycle, it provides a continuous caloric stream. You harvest the nitrogen-rich foliage early, then extracting the sugar-dense taproot later. Why throw away the tops? In terms of chemical composition, the greens are often superior to the root itself. They are packed with iron and vitamins, rivaling Swiss chard in nutritional density. Harvesting begins within weeks. While the farmer collects the leaves, the tuber continues to swell underground, storing energy for the winter. The cold is not an enemy here. As temperatures drop, the plant converts starches into sugars to prevent freezing. In agronomic zones 5 through 10, the soil acts as a natural preservation chamber. The roots sit in the ground, alive and fresh, until extraction is required. Varieties such as Detroit Dark Red and Bull's Blood are specifically bred for this thermal resilience. But there is a biological nuance to consider. Upon closer inspection, what looks like a single beet seed is actually a dried fruit cluster. Inside this corky shell, multiple embryos wait to emerge. In the field, this results in a tight knot of seedlings fighting for resources. Thinning is not optional. It is a mandatory culling process to ensure survival. Without intervention, the roots remain stunted. The grower must reduce the population, spacing plants 3 inches apart. The cold sprouts are not waste. They are consumed immediately as microgreens. 50 to 60 days later, the main crop is ready. This transforms a single short row into a months-long food supply, bypassing the inflated prices of fresh produce markets. Speed is the primary asset of the 8th crop. Radishes are the velocity champions of the November garden. 20 days. That is often all it takes to go from seed to harvest. The cellular expansion is rapid, producing a crisp, peppery root before other crops have even established a leaf canopy. This growth rate allows for aggressive succession planting. The logistics are simple. Every 7 days, a new batch goes into the soil. One planting cycle matures and vacates the space just as the next round requires more room. It functions as a biological conveyor belt, delivering food continuously rather than in a single overwhelming glut. In fast motion, the process is explosive. The red globe expands, pushing the soil upward and outward. For the variety Cherry Belle, the result is a uniform, round root with mild flavor. Temperature dictates quality here. High heat is detrimental to the structure of the radish. Summer stress causes the plant to bolt, turning the root into woody, fibrous cellulose. The cool air of November prevents this lignification. The cold locks in moisture, ensuring the texture remains crisp and the spice level stays manageable. Even during hard freezes, the production line does not stop. Simple row covers create a microclimate, protecting the water-heavy cells from bursting. From a minimal investment of seeds, the grower secures a source of fresh crunch that is largely absent in winter agriculture. The cycle is fast, cheap, and reliable. One planting, double the caloric output. The 9th crop on the roster is broccoli, and November is the critical threshold for maximum efficiency. In practical agronomy, timing defines yield. Why settle for a single harvest when the biology of the plant allows for a second wave? Most growers harvest the central crown and clear the field. That is a waste of established root systems. By planting in late autumn, the cultivator triggers a regeneration mechanism. The plant strives to reproduce. Once the main head is severed, the organism redirects energy to survival. Dormant buds wake up. In the leaf axils, lateral growth begins. These are not weak offshoots. They are substantial secondary heads that extend the production window for weeks. The return on investment for the occupied soil space doubles. This is not just gardening, it is resource management. Cold is the catalyst. Broccoli does not merely tolerate low temperatures, it requires them for optimal structural integrity. Heat causes the plant to bolt, sending up flowers and turning the stems woody. November chill does the opposite. It forces the cellular structure to condense. The heads become tight and rigid. Chemical changes occur within the tissues. Starches convert into sugars as a defense against freezing, resulting in a flavor profile impossible to achieve in spring heat. Speed is essential. For a November start, seeds are too slow. Transplants are the only viable option to beat the deep freeze. The logistics of the bed are strict. Space plants 18 to 24 inches apart. The soil must be nutrient-dense, saturated with compost to fuel rapid cell division. The timeline is fixed. The plant requires 60 to 70 days to generate the primary crown. This places the harvest window directly at the termination of winter. In zones 7 through 11, the crop remains active through the coldest months. The harvest protocol is precise. The cut must be made 5 to 6 inches down the stem. This specific depth preserves enough vascular tissue to support the secondary growth. From the outside, the plant looks harvested, but inside, hydraulic pressure builds in the side shoots. Each one develops into a miniature, dense floret, ready for extraction. In an economic crisis, growing high-density nutrition is harder than earning currency. Avoiding the $3 to $4 price tag per head at the market creates immediate financial liquidity. Number 10 is a lesson in vertical scale: Brussels sprouts. If this crop is absent from the rotation, a massive productivity sector is missing. A single stalk is a biological tower. Upon closer inspection, it is capable of holding 50 or more individual sprouts. The plant does not spread out, it climbs. This density allows for high caloric production per square foot. There is one nuance here regarding chemistry. Frost is not a threat, it is a seasoning agent. The cold acts as a stressor that improves the product. When temperatures drop, the plant pumps sugar into its cells to prevent freezing. This natural antifreeze eliminates bitterness. A sprout harvested after a hard frost is logically superior to one grown in mild conditions. Patience is the currency. This is a long season asset, requiring 90 to 100 days to reach full maturity. November planting aligns perfectly for a harvest in late winter or early spring. The strategy relies on transplants to establish the root network before the ground hardens. Spacing requires calculation. Place them 24 to 36 inches apart. These are large, heavy feeders. They dominate the space and demand airflow to prevent fungal stagnation. In fast motion, the growth pattern is visible. The central stalk thickens, becoming a rigid spine. In zones 7 through 10, this process continues uninterrupted through winter. To maximize yield, the cultivator must intervene. As the plant gains height, the lower leaves must be removed. This is not for aesthetics, it is energy redirection. By stripping the bottom foliage, the plant is forced to channel nutrients into the developing buds along the stem. Harvest begins at the base. When the sprouts reach 1 inch in diameter, they are ready. The collection moves upward, following the maturation line. Each unit is a compact sphere of dense leaf matter. The difference is palpable. Store-bought versions are harvested early for shelf stability, often retaining bitter compounds. Homegrown sprouts, subjected to natural frost, are chemically distinct. The food supply is secured. 10 pounds of edible biomass from a single stalk. That is the caloric density of the 11th crop on our list: cabbage. Why do growers prioritize this vegetable for long-term survival strategies? Because it is a biological bunker. A single head can weigh anywhere from 3 to 10 pounds depending on the specific genetics of the variety. This is not just a salad ingredient, it is serious food security. The logistics of storage are superior to almost any leafy green. Once harvested, these massive heads enter a state of stasis. They will remain viable in a root cellar or a standard refrigerator for 3 to 4 months without significant degradation of tissue. Upon closer inspection, the plant is built for cold endurance. Cabbage thrives in low temperatures and withstands frost with remarkable resilience. November creates the ideal thermal conditions for establishing transplants in the soil. Selection of genetics matters. The variety known as Golden Acre acts as a rapid deployment unit for smaller cultivation zones. It engineers compact heads weighing 2 to 3 pounds in exactly 70 days. However, for maximum volume, the industrial choice is Danish ball head or late flat Dutch. These are designed for long-term preservation. Spacing is critical for these biological factories. Place plants 18 to 24 inches apart. This territory is necessary because the root system is aggressive. Cabbage is a heavy feeder. It depletes soil nutrients rapidly. To sustain growth, the grower must side dress with compost or organic fertilizer midway through the cycle. There is a nuance here regarding hydration. The head forms layer by layer, creating immense internal density. If water levels fluctuate, hydraulic pressure builds inside the plant. On the surface, it looks solid, but inside, the pressure exceeds the structural integrity of the leaves, causing the head to split open. Consistent irrigation prevents this rupture. In zones 7 through 10, a November planting results in a harvest by late winter. The economic calculation is simple. Retail cabbage costs approximately $1 per pound. A 10-pound head from your own soil represents $10 of retained capital. The flavor profile and nutrient density far exceed anything transported across the continent in refrigerated trucks. But that was just the heavy artillery. Our 12th crop focuses on speed and dual utility, turnips. In practical agronomy, this crop is often underestimated. This is a mistake. Turnips are a dual-purpose mechanism. The grower harvests both the subterranean root and the surface-level foliage. It provides 2 distinct fuel sources from a single seed. The efficiency is staggering. The greens are ready for extraction in just 3 weeks. The roots reach full maturity in 40 to 50 days. This timeline makes the turnip one of the fastest producing root crops available for a November rotation. Sensory analysis reveals a sharp contrast between the 2 parts. The greens possess a chemical profile similar to mustard, offering a slight, peppery bite ideal for soups. The roots, when harvested young, are chemically distinct. They are sweet and mild. The bitter, fibrous taste associated with older specimens is a result of over-maturation, not the plant itself. The planting process is precise. Seeds are deposited 1/2 inch deep. Upon germination, seedlings must be thinned to a distance of 3 to 4 inches. This thinning process is not waste. The removed plants are tender greens, ready for immediate consumption. In fast motion, the root swells, displacing the surrounding earth. In zones 5 through 10, the crop demonstrates high cold tolerance. The soil acts as a natural insulation layer. With a covering of mulch, turnips can remain in the ground through the winter, harvested only when needed. Varieties like purple-topped white globe are the standard for reliability. They produce uniform, spherical roots. While other metabolic processes in the garden slow down due to dropping temperatures, turnips accelerate. 1 packet of seeds converts minimal soil volume into pounds of essential nutrition. Two crops for the price of 1 planting. That is the efficiency of crop number 13, the onion set. It represents one of the most logical investments for a November garden. Why bury a bulb just before winter? Because in practical agronomy, this timing maximizes output. You secure fresh greens throughout the cold months, followed by a full harvest of storage bulbs in the spring. This is not just gardening, it is a strategy to double biological yield from a single unit of space. Onion sets are not seeds, they are immature bulbs, paused in their development. This state allows them to establish a root system rapidly, even when soil temperatures drop. The planting process is mechanical and fast. Push the set into the ground to a depth of 1 inch. Maintain a spacing of 2 inches between units. On the surface, the ground looks bare, but underground, the roots anchor into the cooling earth. Slowly, green tops pierce the surface. They grow through the winter. In fast motion, the shoots elongate despite the frost. You can harvest these greens for cooking. This pruning does not damage the plant. The energy source remains safe underground. The onion is incredibly resilient. Its cellular structure withstands freezing temperatures across all growing zones without any artificial cover. The plant simply endures. As the photoperiod lengthens in spring, the biological program shifts. The plant stops focusing on green shoots and begins to swell the bulb. There is a nuance here regarding spacing. If the goal is large storage onions rather than greens, increase the gap between plants to 4 inches. The bulb needs physical space to expand. The soil must be well drained, and the exposure to the sun must be total. From an economic standpoint, the math is undeniable. Retail onions cost between $2 and $3 per pound. A bag of sets costs pennies per plant. You trade a small amount of labor for significant financial leverage over time. Furthermore, onions possess a natural multiplication mechanism. A portion of the harvest can be saved and replanted the following year. It creates a closed-loop supply chain. Crop number 14 brings speed to the equation. This is arugula. For November planting, this spicy green is the optimal biological machine. While other crops dormant, arugula accelerates. It produces harvest-ready biomass in just 30 to 40 days. The flavor profile is distinct. It is peppery and complex, adding density to a nutritional diet. In the grocery store, this complexity comes at a premium. A small plastic container sells for $4 to $5. The markup is extreme. But here is the hidden mechanism of arugula. It is a self-perpetuating system. Once established, the plant seeks to reproduce. If left alone in the spring, it flowers. Seeds fall to the ground. They lie dormant until conditions align, then sprout automatically. This requires zero labor. The crop effectively plants itself year after year. For the initial November sow, broadcast the seeds thinly across the bed. Alternatively, plant in strict rows spaced 6 inches apart. Arugula is a cool weather specialist. Heat is the enemy. High temperatures trigger a stress response that fills the leaves with bitter compounds. The cold of late autumn preserves the sugars and the spice. In zones 5 through 11, November cultivation ensures a continuous production line through winter and into spring. Harvesting requires a surgical approach. Do not pull the whole plant. Cut the outer leaves when they reach 3 to 4 inches in length. Leave the central growth point intact. In fast motion, the center unfurls new leaves to replace the old ones. The factory keeps running. The younger leaves remain mild and tender. This method yields gourmet-grade nutrition for a fraction of the retail cost. $8 per pound on the open market. Yet in the soil, the cost is negligible. Crop number 15 is mustard greens. This is not merely a vegetable, it is a high-output biological machine designed for rapid biomass production. November is the critical deployment window for this species. While the cellular structure possesses a natural heat tolerance, the plant genetically prefers cool environments. Lower temperatures trigger the production of superior flavor compounds, optimizing the chemical profile of the leaf. The regeneration mechanism is efficient. When the stem is severed, the root system does not die. It immediately diverts energy to repair and regrowth. This results in multiple production cycles from a single planting effort. The timeline is aggressive. Maturity is reached in just 30 to 40 days. This represents one of the fastest maturation rates in the leafy green category. Upon consumption, the palate detects a sharp, spicy kick. This is chemical intensity. In high heat cooking, specifically Asian-style stir-fries, the fibers soften rapidly. Consumed raw, the texture is tender. When cooked, the heat dissipates, leaving a mellow flavor profile. The planting logistics are precise. Seeds are deposited 1/4 inch into the substrate. Once germination occurs, thinning is mandatory. 6 inches of spacing ensures adequate airflow and nutrient uptake, preventing resource competition. In zones 6 through 11, this crop turns winter into a productive season. Varieties like Red Giant and Southern Giant Curled are the industry standards. Visually, the leaves are frilly and expansive. The tissue is incredibly resilient. Even after frost damage, the plant recovers its turgidity. Harvesting requires a calculated approach. Individual leaves are removed or the entire plant is severed 1 inch above the soil line. This leaves the growth crown intact. The factory resets. The result is a steady supply of vitamins when fresh inventory is scarce in commercial distribution centers. Crop number 16 is mache, known technically as corn salad. This is a cold weather survivalist that remains unknown to the majority of growers. In European markets, this crop is a luxury commodity, commanding prices of $8 to $10 per pound. The product is a tender rosette with a distinct nutty flavor profile, optimized for winter consumption. But the real advantage lies in its photosynthesis capabilities. Winter offers weak, dim light. Most crops fail under these conditions. Mache adapts. It possesses the biological ability to harvest scarce photons to drive growth when other species go dormant. The physical footprint is minimal. Plants remain small and compact. This allows for high-density cultivation in limited square footage. The seeds are microscopic. To ensure even distribution during sowing, they are mixed with sand before broadcasting. Rows are spaced 4 inches apart. Maturation requires 40 to 50 days. But once the root system is established, the plant becomes hardened against the elements. It survives temperatures well below freezing. In zones 5 through 10, November-planted mache continues production throughout the winter without artificial protection. On the surface, small green geometries form against the cold earth, but inside the tissue, valuable nutrients accumulate. The leaves are dense with omega-3 fatty acids and vitamins, a rarity in winter vegetation. There is one final logistical benefit. Plant this crop once. It drops seeds naturally. The cycle repeats. It becomes a self-perpetuating food source. 100 milligrams of vitamin C per serving. That is the potential of crop number 17, Claytonia, historically known as miner's lettuce. For the grower operating with limited acreage, this plant is a logistical asset. It acts as a strategic solution for shaded zones where standard biomass fails to thrive. Most vegetables require direct solar radiation to synthesize energy. This organism is different. It favors the photonic deficit of partial shade and lower ambient temperatures. Why utilize the dark corners of the plot? Because land is a finite resource. Claytonia maximizes efficiency by occupying the understory. The leaves are distinct, forming circular fleshy discs that surround the stem. They are succulent and retain water. Upon close inspection, the texture is thick, guarding a flavor profile that is mild yet acidic. The planting process is mechanical and rapid. Seeds are scattered across the surface of the prepared earth. They require light to germinate, so deep burial is a mistake. A light dusting of soil is sufficient. In fast motion, the ground disappears under a dense carpet of green. The plants remain low, seizing territory horizontally rather than vertically. Zones 5 through 9 provide the optimal climate window. Sown in November, the crop establishes a root system that functions through the winter months. Yields are high relative to the footprint. A single square foot of soil supports enough density to provide daily nutrition. Harvesting involves snipping the tender stems. This triggers a regeneration response. The plant does not die. It pushes out new growth to replace the lost tissue. On the surface, it looks like a common weed, but inside, it is a survival mechanism. It self-seeds aggressively, dropping genetic material to ensure a return in the following cycle. 3 centuries ago, this species prevented scurvy in pioneer populations. Today, it remains a critical source of winter vitamins. Number 18 is collards. This is not a delicate garden vegetable. It is a biological tank designed for durability. The cellular structure withstands freezing temperatures that would rupture the tissues of lesser plants. Thermometers drop into the teens, yet the metabolic processes continue. Unlike its cabbage relatives, this variety refuses to form a centralized head. Instead, it constructs a loose rosette of heavy dark leaves. This structure allows for a continuous harvest strategy. The grower removes the lower leaves one by one. The central stalk remains intact, elongating over time. This creates a vertical production line. A single unit delivers biomass from November straight through to the heat of the following summer. The variety known as Georgia is the industrial standard. It was selected for consistency and mass. Transplants require spacing of 18 to 24 inches. The root ball needs this radius to anchor the heavy vegetative top. Soil requirements are straightforward. Rich earth and consistent hydration fuel the expansion of the leaves. In zones 7 through 11, a November planting allows the roots to penetrate deep into the subsoil before the true cold arrives. When spring warmth returns, the plant shifts into high gear. Visually, the leaves are thick and waxy. They contain high concentrations of calcium and dietary fiber. Culinary preparation typically involves long exposure to heat to break down the tough cellulose fibers. However, young leaves remain tender enough for raw consumption. The plant grows upward, shedding lower leaves for the harvest while producing fresh canopy at the apex. It requires minimal intervention. The output is calories and minerals month after month. The 19th crop is bok choy. 30 days. That is the only time required to go from seed to harvestable food. The 19th crop is bok choy, and it is a biological machine designed for speed. Why plant Asian greens in November? Most crops slow down as light diminishes. This variety accelerates. In the heat of summer, the plant panics. It bolts and turns bitter to protect its genetic future. But in the cool weather of November, the metabolism changes. The energy goes into leaf production. The plant becomes a dense, symmetrical rosette. In accelerated motion, the white stems thicken and push upwards. Dark green leaves unfold like solar panels to capture the weak winter sun. Optimization is key. For baby bok choy, space transplants 6 to 8 inches apart. This maximizes density per square foot. For full-sized heads, increase the gap to 10 or 12 inches. In zones 7 through 11, the crop ignores the calendar. It thrives while other plants go dormant. The texture is crisp. The flavor is distinct. It lacks the sulfurous bite of standard cabbage. Instead, it offers a mild, watery sweetness. You can harvest the entire baby plant at once, or use a cut-and-come-again method on larger heads. Remove the outer leaves. The core remains intact. The plant continues to push out new growth. On the surface, it looks like a simple garnish, but chemically, it is a vitamin powerhouse. Economics also play a role. In the supermarket, this commodity trades at $3 to $4 per pound. Growing it yourself collapses this cost to pennies. You control the supply chain. But ground space is finite. To get more food, you must go up. Our 20th and final crop is peas. This is not a ground cover, it is vertical infrastructure. By utilizing climbing vines, you turn empty air into calories. Many growers make a mistake. They assume peas need heat. In reality, they demand the cold. Low temperatures trigger a chemical conversion. Inside the pod, starches break down. They transform into simple sugars. This acts as a natural antifreeze and drastically improves the flavor profile. Sugar snap peas and snow peas are the efficient choices here. Construction is required. A 6-foot trellis changes the math of the garden. A single vertical support covered in vines can yield 20 to 30 pounds of produce. Plant seeds 2 inches deep and 2 inches apart. Do not overthink the spacing. The roots act quickly. In zones 6 through 10, the strategy is patience. The plant establishes a root network through winter. Then, as spring light hits, the vegetative mass explodes. There is a hidden benefit. The roots nurture bacteria that pull nitrogen from the atmosphere. The crop does not just take resources, it refuels the soil for the next rotation. Harvest mechanics are simple. Remove the pods immediately. If seeds mature, the plant thinks its job is done and shuts down. Constant picking forces the vine to produce new flowers. The snap of a fresh pod is audible. The taste is sharp and sweet. This final crop maximizes the caloric output of the November garden. The cycle is complete. 1 gallon of water. In November, this is not a resource. It is a death sentence. Why does a newly planted crop reject hydration? Intuition suggests that water equals life. Biology dictates otherwise. In summer, heat acts as a pump, extracting moisture from the ground in hours. In late autumn, the thermodynamics shift completely. The soil temperature drops. Evaporation rates plummet to near zero. The ground ceases to be a sponge and becomes a sealed storage unit. Atmospheric humidity condenses on the leaves. Heavy morning dew saturates the topsoil. This is a passive irrigation system. On the surface, the earth may appear dry and crusted, but inside, the clay holds enough moisture to sustain life for weeks without replenishment. Adding external water disrupts this delicate balance. The liquid fills the microscopic air pockets between soil particles. Oxygen is pushed out. An anaerobic environment forms immediately. This is the critical failure point. The seed does not germinate. It suffocates. Upon closer inspection, the biological machinery is stalling. Under normal thermal conditions, bacteria process nutrients rapidly, but in the cold, microbial metabolism slows down. They cannot manage the excess fluid. The result is a stagnation of resources that turns toxic to the cellular structure of the plant. Deprivation creates strength. When the upper layer is left alone, the plant activates a survival protocol. The taproot does not sit idle in a puddle. It acts like a biological drill piercing the soil to reach the water table. This isn't just growth, it is a structural reinforcement. The plant anchors itself against coming winter winds. The verification protocol is simple: 2 inches of depth. If the earth is cool and damp to the touch, intervention is unnecessary. The system is self-regulating. Passive management yields superior biology. The interference stops. The crop adapts. This is how a harvest survives the cold.